Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P. Joe Pizzapia. With me is my boy, Derek Brown. And tonight we're going to break down the most important game of Week 6. That's right. No, it's not the Bills and not the Chiefs. No, it's not the Cowboys and the Eagles. My goodness, there's a lot of good games this week in Week 6. No. Thursday night football, boys and girls. We got the Commanders and the Bears. Oh, Derek Brown. What a tangled web we weave. We must have some action in this game because I'm not saying it's going to be quite as bad as last Thursday, but it certainly has that potential. There's definitely that in there. We'll break down the injuries, the prop bets, everything in between. But Derek Brown, we might as well start at the top of this game here and start with the line. It's basically who knows in Vegas. The Chicago Bears are home. They're 1-point favorites in this one. One whole stinking Singletary point. And we've got 38 as the over-under. If you like the upset in this game, quote unquote, well, you're not getting much here. You're getting the Bears are 1-point underdogs at home. I misspoke because I was so excited about that one single point. If you like the Bears to win a game at home, is the upset, quote unquote, it's minus 105. So let's start with the lines, Derek Brown. It's basically choose your adventure. So where do you want to start here with the Bears and the Commanders?
Woof. Ugh. This game. I mean, look, you look at how to bet this game. I mean, honestly, both of these, I mean, the money lines, the total, I'm staying away from. But if you do want to get a little extra action, I actually like the Bears in this one. I'd bet their money line. If I'm going to take one side of this, I mean, it's kind of close to a pick 'em. As far as the total, we'll take the under here, Joe. Only because I think both of these teams, especially the Bears, could slow the pace down. So you're looking at less play volume, things like that. Carson Wentz is banged up heading into this game. Thursday night, these island games get weird, Joe. If any way, form, or fashion we see the Taylor Heineke show, then yeah, give me the under.
I like the Bears in this one. I'm just going to go with the home team in the short week, not overthink it. I feel like people are giving the Commanders too much credit for whatever the heck they are. Carson Wentz, you mentioned, is dealing with a bicep tendon strain. That doesn't sound good. That sounds terrible. William Jackson III is going to be out for this game as well. Also, Logan Thomas is out for this game. Jahan Dotson out for this game. Missing a lot of pieces here. So it's not like the Commanders are full strength. Now, the Commanders also don't have a great secondary, something we've talked about quite a bit. However, Chicago Bears won't throw the football, so this is sort of a strange matchup. You got to hope that at some point, maybe Darnell Mooney gets a little bit more than 5 targets. Maybe that's what we're looking for. But, the Bears right now, in terms of injuries, they are in a much better spot here than the Commanders. The Commanders are the ones that have to travel. I'm going to go with the Bears here in this one at the minus 105 and just hope for the best. Maybe you get lucky here and the Bears squeak one out. But it's more exciting about the props. So let's talk about the props. And, of course, we're at bettingpros.com. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Betting Pros. Click that little bell for notifications. We're here doing all the live streams before Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. Before Sunday, we do the live streams. We've got lots of podcasts, lots of videos, lots of great content at BP. And of course, we're going to go to bettingpros.com and check out the prop bet cheat sheet. And our boy, Derek Brown, has done some of the work for you, as we are one to do here. So let's take a look at some of the props that are out there that Derek Brown likes. And let's start here with Brian Robinson, who's going to be the starter tonight. Now, starter can be an overrated thing. 48.5 rush yards, minus 106 is the number here on this one. So let's talk about this here for a second here. Brian Robinson does have some touchdown equity in this game. You like the over or the under on this bad boy?
Oh, I love the over, Joe. Actually, I already bet Brian Robinson's over for his rush yards and his rushing attempts. The rushing attempt line has come up. I got it at 11.5. It's now juiced to the over, so I'm a little bit more off of that. But I think there's still value in the rushing yards. I mean, for a player that we saw last week, I mean, look, it took one game, Joe, one game for him to just steal the early down work. He outcarried Antonio Gibson, almost outsnapped him. I think that moves further in that direction in this game. And another reason I love this is because the Bears' secondary is surprised, but their run defense is terrible. We're looking at a run defense that is 10th in rushing success rate and allowing the third highest explosive run rate. So even if we're talking Brian Robinson gets 13 carries, he got 9 last game. So, 13 to 15. Even if he does that, Joe, what does he got to run for to hit this number? 4 yards a carry? Come on, man. I think versus this run defense, which is bottom 3 in the league, he can absolutely hit these numbers.
Yeah, the short week is my only concern with Robinson and how he looks after, but he didn't have an enormous workload on Sunday. That rush defense you pointed out against the Bears is no good. The Bears is just terrible. So if you're going to take a shot, this seems like the one. It seems like that's a number on the rise, too. Let's go with another one here. Let's talk about Curtis Samuel, 4.5 receptions, -105. You like the over here for Curtis. So let's break this one down here. Somebody needs to be the guy in this offense here besides Brian Robinson. Terry McLaurin didn't get what we hoped last week. De'Ami Brown came out of nowhere and did. So we back to Curtis Samuel this week?
I am. I like him, Joe. I bet the over on his receiving yards and his receptions. And the matchup is just, it's amazing. And it doesn't matter whether it's Carson Wentz or it's Taylor Heineke under center, whatever, how that plays out. Because Curtis Samuel is going to be a wonderful safety blanket. And Chicago, where you attack them is via the slot, which is, that's Samuel's wheelhouse. Kyler Gordon has arguably, not even that arguably, been one of the worst slot corners in the NFL. He's allowing an 80% catch rate, 131 passer rating, and he's been targeted the third most amongst all slot corners. So I think Samuel can have himself a day, and I'm honestly surprised by these lines. They were that low, considering how much volume he's been getting and how high his target share's been.
Well, I think the lines collectively are just low on this game.
Agreed.
Short week, 2 offenses that have really underwhelmed in the last few weeks. Also limited in terms of what they like to do with the football. I think that's the other thing, too. And I'm not surprised by Brian Robinson being Ron Rivera's favorite. In Alabama, he is a much more physical back than what Antonio Gibson's been at the NFL level. It feels like that's the kind of style that really fits what Ron Rivera wants to do. And he's a good running back. The knock on him was that, he wasn't the starter till, the end, but it's Alabama. You're always waiting in line behind some other amazing prospect. So I'm not going to ding him for that. I always thought that was ridiculous. So Samuel in play, Brian Robinson in play. Let's switch gears to the Bears here. Let's take a look at Justin Fields. Dare we do the passing yards? Dare we have Justin Fields 170.5 -114 is the number. I can't believe this is the one you pulled out. So let's talk about it. 170.5. You feel like this is a comfortable number?
Well, I feel like it's not the most comfortable number. Out of all these props we pull out of the top 5, obviously I feel much, much better about the other 4 than this one. But I feel pretty good about this one in the sense that you look at how the Bears, if they win this game, how are they going to have success? And yes, they love to run the ball, and we all know that. But Washington has been one of the best run defenses in the NFL. So as much as they want to run the ball, I don't know how much success they're going to have running the ball. They couldn't even run the ball last week in a really good matchup. So they're going to be able to do it this week versus a terrible matchup. And the secondary for Washington, we know you can beat the Commanders through the air. They're allowing the 7th highest EPA per dropback, and they're 6th worst in yards per attempt. So when Fields has dropped back, he doesn't need a ton of volume to get over this number. If he's going to chuck it deep and this secondary is terrible, we're talking about 2 long bombs to Darnell Mooney, and maybe he gets close to this, sniffs the over.
It's an Equiminius St. Brown. Is that's the thing.
Velus Jones.
That's going to be the worst thing is all of us who have hopes that, in this matchup, maybe Moody can do something, whether we have prop investments, whether we have DFS investments, season-long investments. If that happens, there's going to be some unhappy people tomorrow morning. I can tell you that. Let's keep going with some of the Bears here. Let's start with Khalil Herbert. 26.5 rush yards. Things have really slowed down for the Khalil Herbert train of late. -113 on the under, and that's where you lie. David Montgomery's back. The backfield has become muddy, so 26.5 seems like a pretty low mark, but you're still under. Let's talk about why that is in this contest tonight.
Again, the strength of Washington's defense, the only strength they have, is stopping the run. They're allowing the 9th lowest explosive run rate and 9th lowest.
Are they stopping it so much, or is everyone just throwing on them?
Mix of both.
They all, you know what I mean?
Washington sometimes those stats are misleading last year.
But sometimes those stats are misleading. It's like, you can't run the ball. Well, you can, just nobody chooses to because the secondary is so bad, you just throw on them all day. I always feel like that's a chicken and the egg kind of thing with some of those stats.
It's true.
So let's go back to Herbert.
The other part about this is that you talked about it. You brought it up off the hop, Joe, is that this is David Montgomery's backfield. It took him one game, and we're assuming, okay, another week, he's maybe a little bit healthier, maybe a little bit more explosive, although we're not really counting on much explosion from David Montgomery. But Khalil Herbert saw his share of this rushing pie drop to 16.7% of the rushing attempts last week. It could drop even further this week if David Montgomery's healthier, his snap count goes from in the mid-70s to the 80s, and Herbert, against a tough run defense, which I'm calling a tough run defense, if he only gets 4 carries, Joe, he's gonna have to what? Run it off for 6 per to get above that line, 7? So I'm leaning on 2 things for this under. 1, it's the strength of Washington's run defense, and 2, it's David Montgomery taking over even more of this backfield this week.
Yeah, I'm not sure is that at your house or mine, but I know there's impending thunder and lightning going somewhere. I don't know what's going on. That's what happens when you start talking about the Bears backfield. Look, man, I gotta tell you, it's certainly just a bizarre divide here. We'll see if any clarity you get from Montgomery and Herbert more tonight. Montgomery, on the other hand, let's go to his receiving yards. 14.5 is the number for that. -110 is the juice. You like the over. Tell me why.
I like the over because Washington, while you can't run on them, they have been more susceptible to running backs in the passing game. I'm honestly surprised this number was as low as it is, considering David Montgomery went above 50 receiving yards last week on 4 catches. If they can't run the ball and Justin Fields is going to be throwing a little bit more, then it's checkdowns from Montgomery. Washington is 18th in DVOA versus receiving backs. They have actually allowed the most receiving touchdowns to running backs in the NFL. So if we're looking at how does Chicago move the ball, they can't run the ball, it's going to be checkdowns for Montgomery. They're just going to run through the air.
Okay, fair enough. We're going to go through the prop bet cheat sheet too, see if I can find some things that maybe I could entice our good pal here. I know we talked about the rushing equity, I should say the passing equity of Justin Fields, believe it or not. So we might as well pivot around and see if we could talk about maybe, I don't know, a little Justin Fields rushing prop, see if we can get you in there. 42.5 is the number, 38.2 is the projection. So how do you feel about his ability? You mentioned that they're tough against the run. Well, does that also apply in your mind to the quarterback as well?
It's a little bit different with Fields in the sense of I think he could take off and run. Washington has been extremely blitz happy. So if they're going to blitz him, he's going to sit here and take off and run. And not so much like design runs, but I think he could scramble. And we've seen Justin Fields. I mean, he's hit the over for this
3 weeks in a row.
Yep,
3 weeks in a row. And 47, 52, and 47 the last 3 weeks.
Agreed. So that brings us to a good point, Joe. It's like, well, if they're not going to run with the running backs, they're going to get checkdowns, things like that, then it could be Justin Fields that gets most. He could lead the team in rushing yards this week.
Fair enough. All right, let's see if we can get a little Carson Wentz prop out here. What about Carson Wentz's rushing yards? 10.5. You in? The over or the under?
Give me the under. I don't think he's going to be taken off. I think if anything, he's going to try to sit here and get rid of the ball quickly. With a dinged up shoulder, I can't see Wentz taking off and running a whole lot in this game.
All right, fair enough in this one. Now, how does the Logan Thomas being out, some of the other injuries that they've had here, some of the wide receivers, how does this affect somebody like De'Ami Brown, who went off last week? Now, I know he was questionable too. We haven't gotten an update on him quite yet, but his prop is 16.5 receiving yards. He's projected at Fantasy Pros at 25.1, -112. A Unibet is the juice, the best spot to bet this. De'Ami Brown had a huge game last week. To say it was out of nowhere would be the underestimate of the century. So what do you think about? Can he show up again 2 games in a row?
I want to stay away from De'Ami Brown props because when I looked at his usage last week, he was not a full-time player. He split routes with Cam Sims and the other wide receivers, and he didn't get a lot of targets, Joe. Now, all my Terry McLaurin love, unfortunately, went to De'Ami Brown last week. Thank you very much.
Sure did. The process was right, though. The process was good.
Results were not there.
Results weren't there.
But I will say, if we're going to pivot around, Joe, and we're talking about Logan Thomas is out, things like that, that does lead me to John Bates. He's going to play all the snaps. He's going to run a ton of routes. I'm surprised his receiving yard line is this low. Right now, I'd be chasing the over. It's 110 on both, minus 110 on both sides. I'd actually take the over on both his receiving yards and his receptions, considering he hit the over on this last. And looking at our projections on Betting Pros, they're projecting him for 21.5 receiving yards. So, and where's our projections at for the receptions? Oh, look at that, 2.5. So we talk about these tertiary bets, these low numbers to chase. These are two really, really good ones.
I love when you say tertiary. I don't know how to spell it, but I just like when you say it. Anytime touchdown score. Let's have some fun here. David Montgomery's at plus 135. Brian Robinson over on FanDuel plus 175. That seems like a really good one to me. To me, of all the things we talked about, that's the one that I think I'd like to put some money on tonight. Justin Fields at plus 200, Terry McLaurin plus 240, Samuel plus 260, Antonio Gibson at plus 330. Your thoughts on some of those numbers I just threw at you for score and TDs in a game that might not have too many of them?
I mean, I'm totally on the Brian Robinson numbers. I would actually, I don't know if you have it pulled up in front of you. How outlandish are his numbers if he goes for 2 touchdowns in this game? We're going to have some fun here, Joe.
I'd have to do the adjustment. I don't know if we have time for that on here, but
okay.
Look, I mean, if you can do the alternate on some of
alt lines too.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's alt lines, there's teasers you could do. There's all kinds of stuff there, but I wouldn't venture to say it would go up to 5 or 6. I mean, because I don't think they're looking for a lot of touchdowns in this game.
No,
so I mean, to get 2 from one guy is already pushing the envelope. But I mean, heck, you throw $20 on this bad boy just at the plus 175. I mean, that's a nice day right there. You don't have to do anything else. Win $35, walk away.
Totally with it, man. I think this game honestly is as nasty as it feels, and we've had some really, really nasty Thursday night games. From a betting perspective, I like this game a lot because the lines are low for a lot of these different players. Yes,
I feel like there's clarity. What's
we
fun
know where
is
the ball
last
is
week,
going.
When you weren't here on last Thursday, Bogman and I did anytime touchdown score, and there were no correct answers.
Hey, I wasn't here, but I was sitting here. I think I bet an anytime touchdown from Mo Alley Cox and Eric Saubert, and neither one of those hit because who saw no touchdowns in the entire game? Although, hey, it was a fun sweat. If you had first touchdown lines that you bet, you were sweating all those. You were sweating those the entire time.
And that one jabroni who had KJ Hamler was saying, it was right there. It was right there. Well, thank you for being right here with us. We'll be back again on Sunday morning to do it all again. In the meantime, go enjoy your Thursday night football and go place your bets. Don't forget to use Betting Pros tools. Don't forget to use Betting Pros so you can find the best places for the best lines and the best props and everything in between over at bettingpros.com, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like this video on the way out. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. Enjoy the football, and that'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Derek Brown, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.